let's have a look at parallel lines. If I were to look at a building and I drew the second story floor as a horizontal line, and then I drew the first story floor as a horizontal line, we would have an example of parallel lines where both floors are horizontal. Okay. Now, if I drew the walls or the pillars, we know that walls and pillars have to be vertical, and so this would have to be at 90 degrees or at right angles. This would have to be at 90 degrees at right angles. And if this side is 90, this side would have to be 90 as well. And if this side is 90, this side would have to be 90 as well. Okay. Now, we already learned from the last video about vertically opposite angles are equal. So if this side is 90, the diagonal has to be matching. This has to be matching. And whatever angle this side is, it has to equal this side. Okay? And that rule is called vertically opposite angles are equal. Okay? Vertically opposite angles are equal. And the code, or the more common way of saying it, is that this is the X rule. Okay? So the X rule says that an acute angle will match an acute angle, and an obtuse angle will match the vertically opposite acute angle, obtuse angle. Okay, now let's take this a bit further. Let's say that we take the same second floor and the first floor, and let's say that this line is called the transversal. And let's say that the transversal has been tilted 10 degrees. Okay? Notice that this angle is now no longer right angle, it's now an acute angle, and so is this one, that's also acute. And if this was 90 but now has lost 10 degrees, it's now 80 degrees. This is 90, it's lost 10, it's also 80 degrees. And these two angles, they are no longer right angles, they've gained 10 degrees. They went from 90 to 100. Okay, and it makes sense that the 100 plus the 80 makes 180 degrees because they are on a straight line, so they have to add up to 180 degrees. That rule was called supplementary. Remember that one. Now, the vertically opposite angles are equal rule, that rule still applies, so that if that's 80, this is 80. If that's 80, this is 80. This is an obtuse angle, so if that's 100, this is 100. This is obtuse, so that's 100, this is 100 as well. Okay? Now, let's take this one more step further. Let's say we tilt the transversal another 10 degrees. It's now moved 20 degrees from the original, so it's now looking a bit more like this. It used to be 90, and now it's 70. This is acute, which is 70. This is acute, which is 70. And this angle here used to be 90. It gained 20. It's now 110 degrees. 110 plus 70 makes 180. And vertically opposite rule says this is 110, this is 110, and this is 110. So now that we know that we have a matching set of four angles that matches this set of four angles, and the same is true there and there, typically with these questions, there's only two answers. It's either the 80 or the 100, or in this case, it's either the 70 or the 110. Now, there's four rules that you need to know. The first one we've already covered is vertically opposite. The second rule that we're going to look at is what's called the Z rule. And here's our letter Z, and it looks like this. This angle matches this angle. They were both 80 degrees, and we call this alternate angles are equal. Okay? The third rule is the F rule. The F rule looks like this, where this 100 110 matches this 110, so it looks like this. And we can say those two angles are equal because corresponding angles are equal. And the fourth and last rule that we're going to look at is the C rule. And the C rule looks like this. This 110 and this 80 degrees makes the letter C. There it is there. And the C rule says that 100 degrees plus 80 degrees add up to 180 degrees. And that's called co-interior angles sum to, add up to 180 degrees. That was your fourth rule. Okay, let's put this into context.